Okay, so you're looking to choose the right category to put your books on Amazon. Well, you're going to want to stick around because I'm going to tell you exactly how to go about finding that exact right category that will work for you. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. So the first thing to keep in mind when you're choosing a category for your book on Amazon is that not all categories are equally profitable. But at the same time, you have to decide if that even matters to you, because you could always just choose a book category that is within a category that you yourself just naturally would like to write about. The challenge, though, is that some of those categories you're going to naturally choose are not going to have many sales happening. And then you come back later and say, why are my books not selling? Well, you may have chosen a wrong category. And there are a number of things you're going to want to consider when choosing the right category. But before I do that, I'm going to let you know exactly which categories are making the most sales. Well, if you use Katie Spy, like I always tell you to use, you can quickly take a look at the top categories and also the top selling books on all of Amazon, and you'll see something very magical, which is that romance and erotica are selling by far more books than anything else. On the top 100, it's just dominated by these romance books. Particularly right now, it would be seasonal romance like Christmas time books that are selling on Amazon like crazy. The challenge, of course, is that this market is a flooded market, so you need to find a sub-niche within it if you're choosing to try to start writing romance books. But at the same time, there are a lot of readers, so if your book is placed properly and fits in among the best sellers, you may have a winner on your hands if you're going in that route. The number 2, it's going to be crime and mystery. Now, it's about half as many sales as romance, and it just goes downward from here from the winners on Amazon, and you'll notice we're still in the fiction category. And the next one, about equally as large, is religious and inspirational books, where people can't get enough of that. Finally, we're within the nonfiction area. Then moving on, we go to science fiction, which is making about $590 million on that category, a little bit less than the others that we talked about. And finally, we end with horror, which is making under $100 million. These are the top categories. So you might be thinking you should target just one of these categories, but you would be mistaken, because the fact is that you can do quite well within the nonfiction category of how-tos, certain skills, by simply looking at those books that are already in those categories, and we choose categories where we see at least 3 books that are ranked in the top 100,000 in those categories, and that gives us an idea that yes, this may in fact be a category that's worth targeting, even if it isn't the original category you were thinking about. Like, well, I see romance books sell so many, so I'll just put another romance book out there, but it's going to be flooding the market, and that can be a little bit of a challenge if you aren't in it for the long haul. I would say you should be in it for the long haul for everything, but nonfiction clearly will give you a win, even if you're just looking at putting out just a few books. If you really want to win at the romance niche, you're going to need to put out a lot of books. You're going to need to do a lot of marketing, and a lot of the things that I teach on this channel, we go through those very steps to ensure that your book isn't just going to be thrown on the market and we hope the best, but that it's actually going to be positioned to win. And sometimes these best sellers, if you compare yourself with the best sellers, you'll notice a lot of differences between your book and their books. And so you shouldn't just choose the top selling category. You rather have to choose something that you yourself are passionate about, that you're going to be able to keep writing as the years go on, that we're going to be building up an audience and understanding this is not a overnight bestseller sort of a thing, but it's over a period of time we start scraping a percentage of those sales that these bestsellers are making, and people start to look at our books and say, yeah, maybe this is something I definitely would like to read more, right? And so it's a huge mistake that so many people make when they're getting started, is ignoring these categories and not understanding it. So on the fiction side, you will make a lot more money in the long run if you just keep writing out fiction and you keep building your audience without switching away. In the nonfiction category, you can do really, really well if you're looking at the most recent trends that are happening and putting books in those categories where you're doing it, but you still should be building out a brand around it. Nonfiction can do insanely well because there's always the opportunity. For example, like my classic example, if you're doing a book on puppy training, you can actually build a business off of that, because what you can do is you can train people digitally over the internet to tell them how to do the puppy training, and you can give advice and guidance. You can create courses. There's all sorts of things you can do in the nonfiction that isn't available for the fiction area, and that's one of the reasons why I personally prefer nonfiction over fiction. just because it's a lot easier to build on it. Whereas if you target the fiction side of things, you're going to have an upward battle because there's a lot of books that are hitting the market in those categories, and the competition is really high. But in the long run, if you stay in the game, you can start to do really, really well on the fiction, just putting out books, getting the covers done correctly, and doing the formatting and getting this whole cycle in place, and then pushing the marketing and learning as you go, which is one of the key aspects we're always focused on this channel, is trying to see how easy we can make self-publishing when you're working through these steps. And that's one of the reasons why I use tools like Katie Spy. You can check out my affiliate link below in the description if you want to see it. That helps with that. Also, in choosing categories and looking at competitiveness, I use Publisher Rocket, which is also available in the description, my affiliate link for that. So these are two primary tools I use in evaluating competitiveness of certain niches, certain categories, the keywords within those books. You're also going to see that the best sellers in these books are doing really, really well. If you wish to be an Amazon bestseller, you're going to need to choose a category that has at least 100 books in it to ensure that if you reach that #1 spot, you're going to get that bestseller flag. And you need to be careful not to choose categories that are completely not related to your book. People do this all the time in order to get that bestseller flag for a category that's unrelated, but Amazon has problems with this, and you risk your account by doing something like that. So I would suggest that you stick within Amazon's guidelines when it comes to choosing your category, and making sure the category you choose is in alignment with exactly your book and the genre that you're publishing. It can be a little bit off, but not too far off. Where if I go into cookbooks, I'm not expecting some steamy romance books, which is what you actually will see that people do on a regular basis on their Amazon accounts, which is a terrible idea if that's your long-term plan. So my question for you is, what categories have you chosen for your books? Have you had any success? And what best tips would you give if it comes to selecting categories when getting started with self-publishing? Let me know below in the comments, because I want to know. And check up above me here for more video answers to your self-publishing questions. Thanks.